Welcome to the Xylo Forge. The Patrol.
Chapter 4. The Edge of Fear. On his next shift, hidden in his car, Steve brought a sledgehammer from home and a set of lockpicks he ordered online. He spent some time the previous day practicing with the lockpicks, without much success. He was not experienced with break-ins, but it couldn't hurt to bring them and try. At 11 p.m., when the last employee left, he retrieved the items, the sneakiness a grim reminder of what he was about to do. He made his way back to the top floor and dropped the heavy bag with a clang as the weight of the sledgehammer connected with the floor. Standing before the locked door, he hesitated. Was this wise? He couldn't help but wonder as the noises, now a cacophony, seemed to mock his indecision. Taking a deep breath, Steve pulled out the lockpicks, his fingers trembling slightly with a mix of nerves and anticipation. He inserted the tension wrench, applying light pressure to it, then tried to manipulate the pins with the pick. Every click or resistance felt a little like a personal taunt. As he worked, sweat beaded upon his forehead, the tools feeling foreign and clumsy within his hands. He regretted not practicing more with the lockpicks. After a few minutes of fiddling, the lock remained defiant, refusing to grant its opening to his inexperienced touch. The frustration boiled internally within him, with nothing more than just scratches of metal tools against the lock, returning the echoes of the futility of his efforts. He just had to know what was making those sounds on a sealed and empty floor. As his breathing began to reflect calmness once again, Steve looked down at the handle protruding out of the large duffel bag. Letting out a deep sigh, he reached down and retrieved the large and heavy tool. With a deep breath, Steve lifted the sledgehammer over his head, and with a quick single motion, he swung and struck the door knob. The head of the hammer connected with the door knob and effortlessly knocked it out of the door. The locking mechanism, no longer held in place, tilted out of the frame as the doorknob on the other side fell away, and the door creaked open ever so slightly, revealing darkness beyond. Leaning the sledgehammer against the wall, Steve put a couple of fingers through the hole where the doorknob used to be and, accompanied by the squeaking of the rusted hinges, slowly pulled the door open. A strong breeze came from within and washed over him. He leaned in slowly, turning his head from left to right. But it was just an empty floor with offices and cubicles. The entire floor was engulfed in darkness, with only the moonlight providing some light at one of the ends of the floor. Steve took a deep breath and stepped inside. The noises, becoming more obvious, grew louder and more distinct. It sounded like people talking, yet he couldn't make out what the words were. Through the windows, the moonlight cast eerie shadows across the deserted top floor. Abandoned offices and cubicles stood silent. As he moved forward, the voices grew louder, more distinct, yet still unintelligible. Suddenly, the air around him swirled and wailed, and a feeling of paralysis gripped him. At first, he couldn't understand what was happening as he tried to turn around and leave, but he couldn't even move a finger. It felt like he was stuck in sleep paralysis. A sense of fear suddenly washed over Steve as he noticed something at the end of the floor. He could see it approaching. He couldn't make out its form as it betrayed his ease, appearing to have some shape, yet not quite forming anything recognizable. Best he could tell, it was a shadowy figure with no distinct features, just a form slowly flowing towards him. He tried to scream out, but suddenly, everything went dark, and he lost consciousness. As his vision slowly returned, he had no idea what happened or where he was. He felt lightheaded and disoriented, the wooziness making him feel sick to his stomach as he slowly swallowed through the dryness in his throat. Still not able to move, his body betraying him. It took a few moments to fully open his weak eyes, unable to look forward, and as he fully opened them, he realized he was standing at the roof's edge. He wanted to scream out, but no sound came from his mouth. still having no control over his body. His struggle continued to dwindle within. Feeling so helpless, Steve felt intense regret, wishing he heeded the warnings and stayed away. The past week's uncontrollable curiosity and obsession were like a monster within, laughing at him, laughing at his desire to have never pursued the mystery. He gasped as he felt some pressure, some invisible force pushing him. "You found us," was the last thing Steve heard, and sheer terror washed through him as he took a step forward.